He couldn't. Isabella raised her daughter since the age of 5 alone. She brought her up in a strict manner. Sophie listened to her mother and grew up to be an obedient girl. She did well in school. She did not know her father. He died early in a factory accident. Isabella never married again. Somehow she didn't meet her man. When Sophie came after the vacations to her 10th grade class, all the boys, her classmates admired her beauty. And it's true, Sophie suddenly blossomed in one summer, turned into a beauty. Stately, blonde, fluffy hair framed her beautiful face with huge blue eyes. The eyes stood out in particular. Sophie's mother had long ago seen that her daughter was beautiful, and she was worried about her early infatuation with boys. They really didn't give her a pass. At the end of 10th grade, Sophie fell in love. She fell in love with her roommate Alex, who came back from the army, tall, black-eyed. He wasn't like her classmates anymore. He was already a real man. Her mother wasn't worried for nothing after all. She had watched her daughter. It turned out that Sophie was pregnant. They decided to have a small wedding with the neighbors. Sophie and Alex got married. The young couple lived at Sophie's because Alex had 2 other younger sisters. Sophie gave birth to a son, Jack, a little black-eyed boy, just like his father. He'd adored his beautiful wife and his little boy. Alex worked as an electrician for a power company. Sometimes he traveled far from home. He did repairs at power plants. On one of those trips, Alex was killed by accidentally touching a high-voltage cable. His son Jack was only 3 years old. It took Sophie a long time to come to her senses. Alex was her first and great love. Isabella understood her daughter. She decided her daughter had the same fate as she did. It would be up to her Sophie to live alone and raise her son. Sophie gradually came to her senses. Time had done its work. She studied at the institute by correspondence, traveling to sessions. She took her credits and exams. By the age of 28, she finished her studies, got her diploma. My son Jack was already in school. Still lived with her mother in a threesome. Sophie works as a design engineer in a factory. Life is monotonous. Work at home. At least Jack takes her out to the skating rink in the winter to see cartoons. Men look with interest at the beautiful Sophie. Many invite her to cafes. Even the married ones hint at a proposal. But she does not want to go anywhere. Many people think she is arrogant because she rarely makes acquaintances. But one day a software engineer, Oliver, arrives from the north. They quickly hit it off with each other. Oliver is divorced, nice, tall, interesting. Single girls and women immediately attacked him. You bet. A free and intelligent man in his 30s. Age. The most comfortable. The only thing he didn't have was his own place. But that wasn't the issue, and Oliver, as soon as he saw Sophie, lost his peace. He couldn't even believe it when he found out she wasn't married. I wonder if she's that beautiful and single. What are the local men looking at? He looked around for a month or so and saw no men around Sophie. He learned from male colleagues that Sophie does not pay attention to men's proposals. One day after work, he waited for Sophie and offered her a ride home. She looked intently at Oliver, and he drowned in her blue eyes. He was already hesitant, but suddenly she agreed. Why do I agree? Let's go. Many people were coming out of the gate at this time, waiting for the bus. And Sophie, in full view of everyone, she got in the car with Oliver, and they drove off. From then on, they saw each other all the time. Sophie told her mother over dinner, "Mom, one of these days I'm going to introduce you to Oliver. He works for us as a software engineer." Jack heard that a man was coming to visit them. He got excited. At last, he will talk to a man, tell him about his manly secrets, interests, and that his mother and grandmother do not perceive their feminine mind. Men's interests, maybe they do, but not in the way he wants. Isabella looked sternly at her daughter. "Sophie, who is this Oliver the programmer? Did I miss something?" She does not treat her daughter as an adult woman, 35 years old, but as a child, trying to cut her off from the world. Maybe it's an imprint from her childhood on Sophie. Her mother has lived her whole life alone. She wanted her daughter not to be bothered with men either. It seemed to her there was no man with whom Sophie would be happy and who would be a good father to Jack. 3 days later, Sophie arrived from work with Oliver. Oliver came with flowers, handing them to Isabella. "Good evening. My name is Oliver." Isabella looked at him very friendly and with a pursed lip invited him into the kitchen. "Thank you. Come in, we'll have dinner." Jack, already a big guy, tall, black-eyed, happily and businesslike, shook hands with Oliver. "Hello, I'm Jack." Oliver shook his hand with a smile. He liked Jack, a real man of business. But Isabella did not like Jack taking Oliver for himself. "You're dreaming, Jack. We'll see how we get along. The first time you see a man, you are dreaming." Sophie eased her mother's concerns. She asked Oliver, "Would you like some tea?" "We have delicious, fragrant herbal tea. My mother picks it herself out of town. She's very good at it. She's an expert at it." "Yeah, sure, I'll have some fragrant. I like fresh tea." He gave his mother a friendly look, but she didn't even smile. She sat there like a stone. When Sophie came out to see Oliver off, he said to Sophie, "Your mother didn't like me." She never smiled as they sat at the table. "Don't worry, that's how she always acts with strangers." After a while, Oliver and Sophie got married. Oliver insisted that Sophie come to live with him in a rented apartment, but she objected. "Oliver, we have a 4-bedroom apartment, so we each get a room." "Well, we'll just have to squat in your rented place. It's a long way for Jack to go to school. He doesn't want to change schools." Oliver agreed with Sophie's arguments. They started to live at my mother-in-law's house. At the beginning, there was neutrality with the mother-in-law. All questions went through Sophie. But there were not many questions. Oliver, as the only grown-up man in the house, tried to take care of all the men's work. Time went on. Everything in the apartment was broken, ruined, a leaky underblower. Oliver fixed everything. He turned out to be not only a programmer, but he could fix everything. Gradually, they made repairs to the apartment. Mostly everything was done by Oliver. He could cover and wallpaper, change plumbing, assemble new furniture. 8 years passed. Oliver and Sophie still live with their mother. Jack has graduated from high school and is studying at the institute. Jack became friends with Oliver. It is possible to say that from day one they hit it off. Oliver supports him in everything, and Jack now only consults with him on all his manly questions. His relations with his mother-in-law are good now. She has finally come to terms with him. She understands that her daughter is lucky to have a husband. Oliver has no bad habits, and the main thing is that he is very friendly with Jack and treats him warmly and attentively as a son. Sophie and Oliver have no children of their own. At first, she wanted to give birth to children, but it didn't work out, and it is too late for that. Oliver has a daughter from his first marriage. She lives with her mother. She never speaks to her father. He worries in his heart, but he never tells Sophie. One day, one weekend, Sophie and Oliver returned from the store. The whole apartment was filled with the taste of chicken in the oven and something else delicious. They went into the kitchen. The mother-in-law was setting the table. Sophie and Oliver looked at each other. "Mom, wow. What kind of a table did you set? Are we celebrating something or other today?" Sophie asked cheerfully. "Don't talk so much. Come on, sit down at the table," she said in her usual grumpy voice. Sophie and Oliver sat down, and suddenly Isabella took a bottle of expensive cognac out of the cabinet. She put it in front of her son-in-law and poured it for him. She also poured a sip for herself and her daughter. Oliver was not much of a drinker. He rarely allowed himself to drink, except on holidays. Sophie hardly drank at all. They both looked at Isabella with surprise. Oliver asked, "Is it cognac? What kind of holiday are we having today?" The mother-in-law looked warmly at her son-in-law. "Yes, Oliver? A celebration for you personally. That's what I decided. I remember when you began to meet, when Sophie brought you to get acquainted. How unfriendly and cold I greeted you. How good you are, Oliver. You don't hold a grudge against me. I never once felt any anger or self-loathing from you. How good of you to get married. Forgive me, Oliver, for meeting you like this. I should have apologized to you long ago, but better late than never. I have long considered you not my son-in-law, but my son." Oliver and Sophie were almost choking on their mother's unexpected confession. A son-in-law is used to his mother-in-law. She is not scandalous. She just keeps silent more often, and they have a good relationship. He did not even suspect that his mother-in-law was worried in her heart about their first encounter. It turns out that Isabella has a good soul. She just hides it. "What a great mother-in-law I have! Thank you, dear mother. I have forgotten the first time we met." Sophie and Oliver looked at each other. They laughed happily, and Isabella furtively wiped her eyes.